Hello and welcome to 5 Minutes with IMPO. I'm Jeff Ranke, Editorial Director of Industrial Maintenance and Plant Operations. The ongoing pursuit of greater efficiency and productivity means the industrial sector is constantly looking at all aspects of the enterprise in search of ways to push their operation forward. While it's always been at the forefront, more manufacturers are giving even more attention to how maintenance programs can be a prominent driver of these strategies. Here to discuss this topic in greater detail is Stephen Timms, CEO of Sigga Technologies. So first of all, Stephen, thanks so much for joining us today. You know, we're talking about the added emphasis that's being placed on maintenance activities. So I'd kind of like to set the table a little bit and ask you, what are some of the values, or what are some of the value that can be brought about by a maintenance organization or working with somebody like Sigga?
Jeff, thank you. So I think we think about that probably in two parts. I think the first part of the answer, when we think about how does maintenance drive value, is what do we mean by maintenance? And for us, that's really the technicians. It's the reflection of the activities of individuals. We live in a world where we're not replacing those folks with AI and robots and automation. So it's still about fingers and brains and being able to create efficiencies around that. And our experience is, when you can create those efficiencies, you get to create all of those downstream and upstream values. So efficiency for the plant, the local plant, means it's more productive work, right? There's less walking around, there's less printing out pieces of paper. So it's more productive work that you get to do in less time. It allows us to connect things like reduction of overtime, reduced backlog, ultimately lowering cost. And you can connect those through, Jeff, to what I think of as sort of that corporate value. So now, because we're fixing machines sooner, before they require lengthy downtime and expensive repairs, we can improve both throughput and quality, which frees up capacity for new sales, for example. Because we are collecting more information and enriching it and improving its accuracy, we're allowing organizations to promote their own world-class maintenance practices. So moving from reactive to predictive, say, where the organization has those goals for whatever the particular asset is in question.
No, makes a lot of sense, and it's a good infusion of people and processes and technologies and bringing it all together. Makes a ton of sense. You know, Stephen, Sigga sits in a really interesting position in the industry in terms of the diversity of people that you're working with. Maybe you could talk about a little bit some of the trends that you're seeing that are really impacting maintenance right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like everybody, Jeff, I think we're looking around the industry, right? What are the buzzwords? What's the language everybody else is using? And frankly, I don't think any of it's surprising. Most recently, we've been talking about connected worker, which we think of as an approach to use technology for a frontline worker. So in our case, we're thinking maintenance, reliability, operations, how we help them enhance productivity, safety, and effectiveness. And not just with mobile devices. So connected work is about saying IoT, augmented reality, wearables, analytics. But we've also got things that have been around for actually decades. TPM, total productive maintenance, efficiency, effectiveness, reliability, engaging all levels within an organization. And we've also now got Industry 4.0, which is about this digital transformation journey leading to industry apps. So whichever of those three you choose, what I think is super interesting, they all really, in some way, speak to being, firstly, considerate about the individual. How do we make the individual worker more efficient and effective? At the same time, and how do we leverage the plethora of data that we get to create to drive that ongoing corporate value?
No, it's interesting. A lot of those dynamics have been in place for a long time, and it's an interesting mix with all the new technologies and strategies that result. You know, not to make this sound too much like an interview, but I have to ask a little bit, Stephen, you know, what does Sigga do differently with all of these different converging factors?
Jeff, first of all, thank you for the question. And to answer, look, I think it begins at the beginning. Frankly, we started life as a consulting company from 20 years ago that came from a collection of maintenance techs and managers that believed that they could solve the real problems they were experiencing. So we were a group of individuals that had the pain that we now go out and do our best to solve. So our software comes from real world experience rather than building tools to solve what we conceptually thought might be an industry need. We are 100% focused on SAP. So we don't touch any other ERP systems. We think that that's an advantage, right? We think we live and breathe all day long about how do we make SAP a better experience for its users and our customers? How do we make maintenance workers, equip maintenance workers to become heroes across their organization and drive that corporate excellence that we were talking about? Because we focus fully on SAP, we invest more in our own intellectual property. So we built our own high-performance, robust integration, for example. And Jeff, guess what that means? That means that the data that I was talking about earlier, it means that we get to connect, create more rich, robust, higher integrity data, which drives that value. And I want to give you a couple of real examples of customer value that when you do this right, you can create. We have a customer who reduced their planning window from 2 days to 2 hours. 2 days to 2 hours. And then we've got another one that comes to mind, a customer that increased their wrench time. So look, this is tool time. This is real hands-on equipment, right? They increased their wrench time 2 hours per day per technician. That's a quarter of a working day that was previous waste that we turned to fully productive time. So I think this is the value that you can create across an organization when you start to think a bit differently and actually connect all of these dots in the way that we try very hard to do.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Stephen. And for more information, we've provided links to some additional Sigga Technologies reports, or you can learn more at sigga.com. That's SIGGA.com. For Stephen Timms, I'm Jeff Ranke, and this has been 5 Minutes with IMPO.